Samantha from Jessima Tutorials here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a cool project using some silk screens and cling wrap. Now this is some Primo white polymer clay that I've just got rolled out on my thickest setting, and I just want you to have that ready to go off to the side. I'm not going to be using it right this second. For now I'm actually going to bring over some cling wrap, and I've got enough that it will be able to cover my whole piece. And just riffle that up. Try not to have folds, but just kind of waves. So we're going to be applying alcohol into this, and just scriffle it up into a pattern that you're pleased with. Then you can use any kind of isopropyl alcohol. You can also use an alcohol blending solution for this next step. Have that off to the side, and then I've got a couple colours of ink, and I'm just going to open those as well, ready to go. You can use any colour of ink that you want. The idea behind the colours I'm using today is they're supposed to represent water in the pattern that I am making, so I've modelled them around that. But again, it really depends on the silk screen that you use. The silk screen that I'm going to be using today is my layered koi fish silk screen. This is the number, and it is from my Etsy store, Jessima Design. I make and design them myself if you're interested in those. But the ink is going to cover the background. So just spread some of that blending solution, like so. And then choose what your dominant colour is going to be, and that's the lighter of the blues. And just drop that on. And I'm going to choose the dark blue next, which will be my next colour. And I think I'm actually going to just stick with blue. I'm not going to add the green. I think it looks nice the way it is. Okay, and that should be enough to cover the clay. Okay, then I'm going to bring over the clay, and I'm going to place that down over here, trying not to get any alcohol ink on myself. And I'm actually going to fold this over so that I trap the ink in, so that when I pick this up it's not going to get all over my hands or over my tile. Try to keep it as tidy as possible. And press that all down, and then I will lift that up, and you can see already there the pattern that is starting to form. And you want to let that sit and dry for at least 30 minutes. I find better results with leaving it for about an hour and a half, just to get the ink to dry as much as possible, or mostly actually to sink into the clay, because the clay is going to absorb it. So you don't want to leave it for too long. Longer than 5 hours is going to leave your clay quite brittle, but I do like to leave it for at least an hour really to get it to set. So do that. Go find something else to do and come back, and then we can unwrap it and see how it looks. Okay, and so I've left it for about an hour, and we're just about ready to lift it up. Now, not all of the alcohol ink has soaked in. You can leave it for longer if you want, but you are going to have to dry up some of it. That's just how it normally works. And you can see by wrapping up the back, we've actually ensured that we get a cool pattern along the back too. That way we use more of our inks, and also just create something nice on the back as well. Now I'm going to be using a piece of printing paper to soak up the extra ink. So I'm going to place that down and lift that up, and then lift up our ink. And the longer you leave it, the more distinctive a pattern you're going to get. So let me just bring that there. You can see it gives a nice pattern. Before I apply the paper to the top part though, I am actually going to give that about 3 minutes to air dry, just because I don't want to soak up a lot of that ink, and so just by allowing it to air dry for a moment, a lot of that will evaporate, the extra moisture anyway. Okay, and it's been a couple of minutes, Now something I also want to mention as I do this is that cling wrap still had a fair bit of ink on it, and you can use it again. So just pop a little bit more alcohol on there just to loosen the ink back up, and you can apply it onto another sheet of clay. The colour that you get is not going to be quite as vibrant as the first time around, but you can absolutely continue using that at least once to use up the extra ink. Okay, now I've just burnished that a little bit just to pick up the rest of that ink. And by lifting that up, that will reveal a lot more of the pattern. And it will have created some extra, it will have taken off the extra ink. You could use this for scrapbooking if you wanted to. But this, in the meantime, looks really nice. I'm also going to lift it up off the back and show you how that looks, and that looks quite nice as well. You've actually got a completely different pattern there. It's a little more distinct, and it's up to you which pattern you like the most. This is the one I'm going to be using for the front of our piece, but the back will work nicely for the back of our piece. I'm going to lay that down, and I'm going to just burnish it to a tile. I'm using a glazed ceramic tile, and by doing this it will just stick it down so that it doesn't lift up while we're doing the silk screen. And the silk screen, again, as I said, is the koi fish one. You can use any pattern you want though. And I'm going to start off with this one, and I'm going to lay that down over our pattern. And the silk screens that I've got have got a slightly sticky back and will allow the pattern to get scraped on easily without paint lifting or bleeding through the pattern, because it actually sticks to the clay. And for this layer I am going to be using white acrylic paint, and I'm going to be using this nice thick paint. Now a quick thing, when we lay this down and we lift the screen up, I'm going to clean the silk screen off immediately, and then I'm going to leave it for about 15 minutes to let that paint dry completely, because when we put the second layer down, because the back of the silk screen is a little sticky, if the paint hasn't dried completely it will lift up your first layer of paint. So just bear in mind that you are going to be leaving this layer of paint for a little bit, and so if you're using white, just expect that your white is going to get tinted by the alcohol ink. So if you don't want it to get tinted, in this case it's going to turn a very light blue, what you can do is you can apply a layer of translucent clay to your veneer and then apply your silk screen. That way you're creating a separation between the paint and the alcohol ink part, and then you can leave it as long as you want. I do hope that made sense. But anyway, I'm just going to apply the paint like so. And nice thick paint's always good. This is a little thicker than the paint that I usually use, so hopefully it will give us a nice pattern. Okay. And I'm going to need to apply a little more paint. And scrape that over. And this is why I like having a sticky back silk screen, because it allows me to do this without worrying about it possibly causing the pattern to bleed. Then just run over a couple of times to make sure that that pattern is nice and smooth, and then we're going to lift the silk screen. You'll have a beautiful pattern, and that on its own actually looks quite nice, but we're going to be applying a layer of gold with these kind of pencil lines. But anyway, I'm going to go clean the silk screen quickly and then leave this for 15 minutes. Okay, and so I've left it for a bit to dry. Now I'm going to bring this one over, and this can be a little tricky, so allow yourself a little bit of time to line this up correctly, because you want to line it up as close to the bottom pattern as possible, and you're never going to be able to do it completely. Well, I challenge you to be able to do it perfectly. It's a bit I'd be quite surprised if you managed to do it that well, but you should be able to get it quite close. Here we go. Okay, and I'll just burnish that on enough to have it stick. Then I've got some nice thick acrylic gold paint here. And I want to work quickly because I don't want the silk screen to stick to the paint that we've already got. And that was a bit too much paint, but that will be fine. Okay, now I'm just going to sweep that over like so. And this paint you can scrape back into the pot of paint that you've got. And then I'm going to lift this up. And you can see it does stick a little bit, but not too much. Go clean that silk screen immediately. Okay, and here is how it looks. Now I did get some sticking. And a little tip that I want to give you, if you're using layered silk screens and you have the ability to get cheap paint, I actually would recommend that, because the cheaper the paint, the more chalky its finish has, and therefore the less the silk screen will actually stick to it. This one that I'm using is quite high quality paint, as ironically it's the only white paint I have at the moment, but I would recommend a cheaper brand of paint, as I said, it sticks less. But also at the same time I kind of like the effect that it gives, because it gives it a less than perfect effect. It almost gives it a weathered look. But that is how it looks. And I was going to make earrings, but I think this looks so nice that I want to make a trinket dish from it. I just think it would look really nice, especially since the back looks really good. So I'm torn between either doing a classic square shape, or I have these new wobbly circle cutters, which I think also look nice and kind of create the feeling of waves. And I think this is the one that I'm going to go with, but the square one also looks quite nice. So I'm going to pop that down, and there is some extra clay around the edges. That's good. We're going to be using that to create our feet for our bowl later. We have to bake the bowl first into its curve, and then we'll bake it a second time with the feet attached. So allow yourself some extra clay to do that. Okay, and I'm just making sure I've got a nice cut, and I'll lift the outside first, because with big cutters I find I don't cut properly around the edges, just because it takes a bit of pressure. And actually a trick that you can do is you can use your roller to just press around the edges, and it gives more even pressure than your fingers would be able to, and that can help. And I'll lift that up, pick that up, and you're going to have a little bit of fluff around the edges. That's from the paint. Just run your finger around the edge and that will clean it right up. Okay, and the back should be all good because we wrapped the clay when we did the alcohol ink, so I will show you what the back looks like in just a moment. And there's how the back looks. If you wanted to, you could silk screen an image onto there as well, and I actually might do that. No, I think it looks nice the way it is. I'm actually going to leave it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over a bowl, and any ceramic, glass or metal bowl will work for this. You're just going to be using it as a form to bake your piece in so that it gets that round curve that you need on a bowl. And you're just going to press it in like so, and then you're going to bake that for a full hour at Primo's recommended temperature. And when it comes out the oven, we're going to sand the sides to clean them up, because right now they look a little mucky. And then we're going to place feet on the bottom so that it stands nicely. Okay, and here it is out of the oven. Now I'm going to bring over this, and this is a good example of why I like to test my inks before putting it in the oven, because alcohol ink does fade in the oven, so that is something you want to bear in mind. So always make your colours more vibrant than what you're going to want them to turn out in the project, and sometimes they'll be a little darker, sometimes a little lighter, so just bear that in mind when you're making something. Now, to fix these sides, they're already quite smooth, so I'm not too worried about that, but I want them to be pure white. So I'm going to bring over some white polymer clay, just some clay like this, and just roll it into a ball and warm it up in your hands until it is nice and soft. Okay, and it should be very soft, like so. And that was just from me rubbing my hands together. If you find that it's not soft enough, you can always mix liquid clay into it. Then I take a small piece, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to smudge that around the edges. And the reason I'm doing this is because my clay cracked a little bit around the edges, so I don't want to use something like paint to do the sides. If your sides are already quite smooth and don't have any cracks in them, then you can use paint instead of clay, but I'm essentially filling in any gaps, and then once it's baked again, then I'm probably going to go over with a layer of white paint just to make it a little more of a solid white, but for now it does need to be filled in. Okay, and there we go. That's how it should look. Then just run your finger lightly over it to remove any fingerprints, and just to smooth it out in general. Do a little cleanup around the edges, but it should be pretty much good to go. And you can see what the back looks like there. Now I'm going to pop that to the side, and I'm going to bring over our leftovers again. And let's see, I'll bring these over as well. And I'm going to cut out 4 pieces. And I've chosen a little circle cutter to do this. You can have your feet any shape that you want. I've just chosen for them to be circles this time. And I think I'm only going to need 3. I'll bring these over. And I'm going to stick them on in a moment. Balance that. There. Grab these 3 and pop them down. Gently press them onto the surface. They're not completely stuck at the moment. You can still move them around if you want to. And then just take this and see if that balances. If it does and you're happy with how it sits, grab a piece of printing paper again. Any old paper will work. And place this down and then gently press in the middle. And this is going to secure those pieces to the back, and it's also going to make sure that it's going to sit correctly, nice, flat and stable. It shouldn't wiggle around. Okay. And there we go. Then I'm going to bake it exactly like that for another 30 minutes at Primo's recommended temperature. And then when it's done, we're going to give the edges just a final coat of paint to whiten them up, and then we'll seal it. Okay, and here is how it should look after it's baked. Now, I actually am okay with how the sides look. I'm not going to worry about painting that. All that's left now is to varnish it. And for that, I'm going to be using some water-based paraffin gloss varnish. And I've just got that off to the side, so bear with me while I just get some of that on my brush. And I'm probably going to do about 2 layers per side. So I'm going to do 2 on the front, then 2 on the back, like so. And the bigger and thicker your brush is, especially when you've got a large piece that you're working on, the better. So, and I'm also going to run my brush around the edges as well to give those a coat of varnish. They don't necessarily need a coat, it's just so they also match the gloss finish when this is done. And then I'll leave that to cure or dry for about half an hour, and then apply another coat. And I might do a 3rd coat. I generally don't end up doing a 3rd coat. It depends on how it looks. Then once I've done that, I'll flip it over and I'll do the same for the back. Okay, and here is how it looks after I've given the top 2 coats and the back 1 coat. And yeah, that is pretty much it. A nice easy technique. I really do like using the cling wrap technique. It's nice on its own, or it's nice as a background for something like a silkscreen. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you like the tutorial, please do consider leaving a like and a comment, as that helps the video out and is greatly appreciated. And if you're interested in the silkscreen and or the cutter used in today's video, I do make and sell them myself on my Etsy store, Jessima Design. There will be a link in the description below for that. And yeah, that's just about it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.